What if the chaos you grew up in became the catalyst for your greatest awakening? Tina LeAnn knows that story well. Raised in an unpredictable home, she learned early to navigate emotional storms, but it wasn't until a psychology spark, a bold move out of state, and a health crisis in her 40s that everything cracked open, launching her into deep healing work like energy medicine, epigenetics, breathwork, human design, and subconscious transformation. Today, she helps others break the patterns that once held her captive. Before we begin, if you're here because you're seeking truth, healing, and transformation, make sure to subscribe and share this episode with someone who's ready for their own awakening. Every conversation here is meant to inspire your journey and remind you you're not alone. Welcome, Tina. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this because you and I
Yeah,
seem to
me
have
too.
quite a bit in common. So,
Yes, we do.
yes, yes. So, Tina, can you go a little deeper into the trauma you experienced and how your personal healing journey got you where you are today and into the work that you do?
Sure, yeah. So I grew up now I have a good relationship with my parents today, I just want to say. And they
Okay.
were they were doing the best with what they knew at that time, dealing with their own trauma. And my mother in particular really had a very traumatic childhood and upbringing.
Mm.
And I understand that now. As a child, our home life was very inconsistent and unpredictable. My mom got hooked on pills after a back injury when I was around 5, 6 years old. And my dad was in the Vietnam War and he used drinking to cope. And so they created some coping strategies that were not the healthiest and didn't create the healthiest environment. And so it led me, which is all on purpose, right? We understand later in life all of these
Right.
things, right?
I
But
agree. Yes.
so it led me to create some protective strategies for myself as a child that worked to keep me safe then, but as an adult then no longer served me.
Mhm.
And just my curiosity was that part of me was just so happy. That was giving me a lot of answers, and it started to lead me in a direction of, oh, psychology, like there's more to humans than we knew, right?
Mhm.
And then I really was on this path of like, well, how do you become a good human? How do you become, how do you make the most of your life? And so that's kind of the path that I've been on since late teen years. And it's been really cool. And so I took a year off of high school and then I went back to college because I couldn't, I paid for it myself and I couldn't afford to go right away after high school. So I took a year off, saved some money, went back to college, worked, a couple jobs to put myself through. And then I
Mhm.
got my first desk job and then I was like, this is it. This is what all the buzz is
The back
about.
in Well, yeah, the
This is
back
a
in the day jobs, right? Where they
yes.
expected women to do secretarial work or
Yeah.
start there, at
Yeah.
least start there. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm
Uh-huh.
just sitting there like, "This is adulting? This is boring."
Right,
So
right.
then
Yeah.
yeah, so then I had always wanted to move out to Colorado, and so a friend of mine and I decided to move out to Colorado in our mid-20s, and I thought, "Well, if I don't do it now, who knows if I'll ever do this, once you get married and have kids and all the things." And so we just like, let's go. And we did it. We moved to Colorado. And then that was another thing that really shifted and opened up my eyes to something different. I grew up in Wisconsin and drinking is part of the culture there, right?
No, I'm
And
I'm laughing at Wisconsin, Colorado, the difference between the 2.
so
That's where
different.
it's like right? Okay, okay.
Yeah, so
Wow.
different. And so
Yeah.
yeah, and so just getting out I just picked myself up and plunked myself in a different environment, which as you know, whenever you do that, you just quantum shift, right? Timelines collapse and this whole new identity comes to the
Mm.
surface,
Mhm.
and and new ways of looking at things and new ways of experiencing things. I remember going to a concert at Aspen, an all-day concert, and I remember looking around, my friends and I think we had only had 1 beer, maybe 2, and I was looking around like, "Wow, everyone's just, like, normal, just sitting around, standing around, having
It
conversations." There
is so
isn't people, like, just out of control drunk, like would happen in Wisconsin. I was like,
yeah.
"This is wow, this is cool. This is amazing." And I've always been one of those people, like, if I'm not at work, if I wasn't at school or work, I was outside. I love doing everything outside. Snowboarding, hiking, whatever. If I didn't have to be inside, I was outside. And so Colorado just that was a playground
Mm.
for me. And it
Mhm.
just really expanded my awareness. It expanded me physically, with all the snowboarding and rock climbing that I could do, every weekend and in the evenings I was outside. And so that was a really big growth spurt for me. And then I
Mm.
ended up moving back to Wisconsin. At that time, I was working in engineering, and Colorado doesn't have a lot of manufacturing, and I took a 50% pay cut to move out there. And so I stayed there for, I think, 3 or 4 years, and then I decided I better get back to Wisconsin and work on my career, which, that was old conditioning and
Right, hindsight being what it
hindsight. Yeah, exactly. Right, right, right. Exactly. So I moved back to Wisconsin, and then I stayed working in my desk job for the whole span 20 years. And
ow.
then yeah, which was a long time. It was getting to the point where I was calling it my soul-sucking job. It's great. I love the industry. I love, I worked at Harley Davidson. It's a great company. Everything, I love the people I work with. It just wasn't a fit for me. And so I took the opportunity for a layoff and I started my own business, which then again, another growth spurt
Mhm.
because I moved from going to work every day and getting a paycheck in a company that had a marketing and a sales department to
Right.
starting my own business. And now I
And
have to
doing
be the
everything.
marketer and the sales and the leads, and I have to do
Uh-huh,
everything.
uh-huh.
So that was
Yeah.
another huge growth spurt. And
How old were
then
you when you did that, Tina?
I was, how old was I? I was 40,
Okay,
41. Yeah, I was
41.
41.
Okay,
I was
okay.
41. And then I had always been a hard worker. Like I just, always 40 to 60 hours a week. And then when I started my business, I was probably pushing 80 hours a week sometimes. And a couple of years of that, and I just like crashed. I had
Mm,
some major health issues. Not major. I had some debilitating health issues. I was getting migraines 5 days a week and
mm.
chronic fatigue and adrenal gland failure, all of this stuff. I was just exhausted and tired. And I went to the doctors, Western meds, and it got MRIs and CAT scans and everything. And they couldn't find the root cause. And so they said, here's a prescription. Take this when you feel a migraine coming on. And I was not satisfied with that answer. So I went home and went to Google and said, what causes migraines? How can I relieve migraines? And it led me down a rabbit hole of breathwork, energy healing, Reiki,
Really?
human design. That's how I found all of that stuff.
Wow.
And yeah,
That's interesting because 20 years ago, whenever I went online to do stuff like that, it would lead me directly to WebMD. And I was like, I had to figure out a way to find those answers. So I typed the word holistic after it to get
uh,
those answers. Yeah, that's how
yeah,
I had to do it. That's interesting that it went right there.
yeah, it did.
That's very
Well, I
cool.
was, clicking around and,
Yeah.
you go down a rabbit hole and one thing leads to another. And so, yeah, so
Mm.
that's where I discovered a lot of this stuff. And long story short, I healed my migraines. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. Not saying to do this, not telling, for your listeners,
Yeah, but it
not
works.
giving any direction here, but it's my path and what I did. And I,
Exactly.
healed myself, and I
Mhm.
never within a couple weeks too. It was unbelievable. Within, I would say, within the first week, my migraines were almost gone. Within 2, 3 weeks, they were entirely gone. My depression lifted, anxiety was gone. I was sleeping through the night. It was incredible. It was so incredible how fast it happened. And
Mhm.
then and then started the maintenance and the whole shift around all of that. Right now, that was like the beginning of it and the catalyst for all of that. And then it started the journey. And then once I was on that path, it just felt like layer after layer after layer that I peeled off. I just felt lighter and lighter. I felt like I had finally gotten to the place where I was letting go of the really heavy, heavy stuff. And yeah, it started to just feel so good, and and the answers that I always had been seeking were just coming through in a different way. Like I was seeking answers externally for so long, and it shifted to coming through me and from me.
Mm.
And so that's kind of what led me
That's a
into the work that I do now is I basically guide women back to themselves so they can find the answers. Everything is within us, and so they can come back to themselves and find everything they need within themselves.
Yes, that is absolutely 1,000 right on track with all the stuff that I've done in my life, and I wanted to share a little bit. Thank you so much for digging deep in there because, you know, I consistently want my desire, my intention is for people to recognize that, when they see something about someone else who's gone through whatever trauma that they've gone through or even a catalyst. And then they come out on the other side and they've learned all this stuff and they've got the toolbox and they're centered and moving in a direction that can help them not only help themselves but help other people. Like I've done that as I'm doing. Nothing ever ends, it's a journey, but
Nothing ever. Yep.
nothing it nah. So it's so interesting to me, and I love that about these conversations because I feel like they really can open people's eyes to see, even with the trauma and the grief and the things that we go through, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a train. It
Yeah,
was, like, I'm sure
it
for
was.
you as well. It was a
Yeah,
train, and sometimes when we don't listen to our higher selves or our gut, our intuition or whatever, it can become like a train or a 2 by 4 or something like that, but yeah,
yeah.
so I love hearing these stories because I know what it did with me, and then I hear it from somebody else and it's like, wow, I mean, so it does work, obviously,
It
because
does.
that's
Yeah,
yeah, exactly, and I
yeah,
wanted to touch on a couple of things that you said because
yeah.
I thought they were kinda cool. So some of them is just based on what your story is and where our connection, because that's another thing I like people to see is that life brings people together for
Mm,
reasons that we have no idea what they are, right? And so the similarities, like you're talking about your dad who was a veteran. I'm a veteran, my dad was a veteran, my dad was in Vietnam, so when whatever you were going through that that was a result of the energies that were coming from him during that time, you know, I felt that. I literally felt that when you were saying it was because I know, based on personal experience, well, not that I was never in combat, but my dad, it amazes me what that does to the next generation. I actually had
mm,
someone on here that does work with veterans who was not a veteran. He's more of a he's been working with them since the Vietnam War, right?
mhm.
And he talks about secondary PTSD and all that kind of thing. And it's important for people to understand what that is because that relates just as much to our souls as it does to a veteran's soul,
Yeah.
So that's important to understand that. The other thing that I wanted to mention was uh the thing about the psychology class, like, you got to start in high school. I did the exact same thing in college. It's like it starts opening your mind to things that you're like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
And it wasn't just a psychology class. I also took a what is it? Oh, I'm gonna have a problem with this one.
Anthropology?
Philosophy.
Philosophy,
Philosophy.
yeah.
Right? And this was back in the '80s. So when I'm sitting in class, the professor looks us very first day, looks us all, you know, dead on, and he says, "Do you see that chair that you're sitting in? How do you really know that it's there?" And I'm like, what is that? Because I certainly wasn't ready, but I think that planted a seed inside of me to be curious, So having
Yeah.
these opportunities to take these classes, that's another thing is it opens our minds. It creates curiosity, those types of things. So I just wanted to hit on that for a moment.
Mm,
And then the other thing you had mentioned, which I'd love to get into as well, you mentioned with the human design. I mentioned that in the intro. You know, th- there's a couple of things that I'd like to get further into, but what I'd like to do first is I want to start with this question that I've been thinking about because I have experienced this as well. And it's like people think that when they are doing their healing work, they're going from one, and I was like this too. You
mm,
you go from one step to the next step to the next step, but that's not really what's happening because sometimes, and I describe it as a mountain that you're climbing up, sometimes you're not going to the next step. You're going back to another step just to make sure that you've learned whatever it was that you were supposed to learn. So,
yeah.
why is transformation not linear but spiral? And how does that change the way we the way we approach healing and growth?
So why it's not linear is because we are multidimensional beings and living there's an infinite number of timelines happening all at the same time. I don't understand. I can't wrap my head around some of this stuff. I learn about quantum mechanics, so I understand more about how this illusion is how we're operating in this illusion, but I'm
Right.
not a physicist. And so I understand it only, the theory kind of behind it, just to understand what's happening around us a little bit more. I just want to preface that. But
No.
we're multidimensional, the unlimited timelines. There's so many layers to everything that it would be impossible for our healing journey or our life journey to be linear. And we can be sold on the linear, right? And that's where a lot of people get hung up is just do this manifestation thing or just journal every day or just do your affirmations or just. And
And then everything will change, right?
it doesn't.
And it
And
doesn't.
then
Right.
and then what happens depending on a person's conditioning, that can actually do more harm than good because
Mhm.
then let's say it doesn't work and then this person, let's say, has some conditioning or trauma where their strategy is perfectionism and people pleasing and now let's say they try this thing and it doesn't work, well then it shoots them right back into that, well, I'm doing everything right. Why isn't it working for me? And then there's guilt and shame. Well, it works for this person, but maybe you don't know what the person is actually doing behind the scenes. They could be doing energy work. They could be, in a different part of their journey or, there's so many variables, right? And so that can actually do more harm than good. And so if we look at this like a spiral, more than one spiral, I say the 9 spirals. If we look at this, it's we're and like you said, I like the mountain analogy too, and I've heard that one before, and I like that one because it's kinda like we're walking around the mountain, up the mountain, and you might go through one thing, you get to the summit and go through one thing, and you might face it again. Let's say you face it again, but now you're gonna look at it from a different perspective because there's been a couple layers peeled off. So you'll
So,
see it from a different perspective, and you can
yes.
get a little deeper every time.
Yes, yes. Can I throw something in?
Yeah.
'Cause I wanna throw my version of it. I don't even have to throw a lot in because you said pretty much everything I always, because that's what guided me. It's like when you come there's these certain spots on the mountain as you're going up, and that's where your perspective changes. Because the first spot here, you see it this way, right? And then as you
Mhm.
circle the mountain, then you come to the next spot up here, and you're gonna see it in a different light. And you're the first person I've ever heard say something similar to the way I've been saying it. So thanks for validating that. I
Oh,
appreciate
you're
it.
welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because
Yeah.
we're always learning and growing, right? And
Yeah.
so and maybe
Yes.
you've released some of the trauma that's in your body, and so, of course, then you're lighter, you have more knowledge, you have embodied wisdom. And so
Mhm.
when you meet it again, you meet it from a new identity, basically, right?
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
and so then you can ask it different questions and you can get
Mm,
different answers and it could lead you in the direction to unravel some more.
right. That's
Yeah.
thank you. That's so cool. I love how this is, like, validating everything. And I'm actually when I'm listening to you, I come from two spaces. One is my own healing work and how that validates that, and then I also come from, what you talk about and then share with the audience kind of how if anybody doesn't understand what you might be talking about, then I can share that because I have experienced it before and
Uh,
it's kind of a fun place to be where I can get like two viewpoints on the whole thing. I
yeah.
wanted to when you were talking about the piece where you're walking through it and you're like taking advice from somebody or you're doing the daily things like journaling or trying to meditate. Like that's a big thing is trying to meditate because there's so
Uh,
many people especially in the Western world that can't slow their brains down long enough to do that. And I did feel that. I felt where I couldn't do that. I couldn't do, there were certain things that I kept trying and trying and trying and nothing worked until I figured out the trick candle, the white candle, staring at the
mm,
candle
that's a
meditation,
good one.
right?
That's a
So I
good
got
one.
that one. I got that one down. But what was interesting is when I was listening to you say it, a couple of words popped into my head, which is not good enough. So if we're already programmed to feel not good enough and we can't do these things that someone else is telling us that we need to be doing, then that's going to exacerbate the whole thing with the not good enough piece and actually make it worse and put you in a spiral, but going the wrong way. Right. Because
Yeah.
I've experienced that. So I just wanted to clarify that that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you to the audience. It just means that you get to pay attention to how that resonates with you rather than taking it all in and saying, yep, yep. Because I'm speaking from experience on this. It's like everybody was a guru to me. Everybody said this and I went that way. And then I'm like, ah. And then I'm like, no, 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 let's try this now. So if you start to feel not good enough, then there's an opportunity for you to shift gears and move in a different direction. And it's okay to do that. You don't have to follow that one person because it's just another person, that's
Oh,
not your sovereignty. And speaking of which, I'd like to get into another question that I had that actually relates to this whole sovereignty thing. And it's what does it really mean to live as a sovereign soul in today's world?
mm. Well, to me, what it means is to take radical responsibility for everything in all areas of life and to work through whatever needs to be worked through to release all attachments to expectations of others, um, to release looking externally instead of internally, to release, release, release. And then to always know that you can come back to yourself, you can depend on yourself, you can trust yourself, you depend on yourself, and you come back to yourself first
Mhm,
for everything.
mhm.
And in that space of it's basically becoming one with mind, body, spirit, soul, and then leading your life from that space.
Nice, nice. Well, so can you dig a little bit deeper into the release, release, release part? Because I know what you mean by that, but not everybody who's listening or watching may know what that means. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and there's a lot to it, right? Because that's the big that's the
that's
big
the big
stuff.
one.
That's the big stuff. So, basically, I'll try to make this as short and sweet as possible. So, we throughout our from birth to 7, our brains are very malleable. Our unconscious is picking up everything, like 2 million bits a second or something like that.
Mm.
There's different numbers. I hear 2 million, 4 million, 44 million, millions. We'll just say millions of
Lots and
information.
lots.
Lots and lots of it. Your unconscious is picking up everything around you in your environment through
Mhm,
all of your senses. And it sees everything as reality and truth. It doesn't discern, right? And
Mhm.
so your unconscious is aware of everything around you. Your conscious is only aware of 126 bits out of those millions. And the 126 bits that you're aware of are filtered, they're deleted, distorted, and generalized through your beliefs, your values, and your past experiences, your nervous system, where your nervous system is now, right? And so,
And your programming, right?
yes. And so
Also
what
what you learned.
happens then is this information is all around you. It's deleted, distorted, and generalized. And then we create programs and strategies and habits based on our values, beliefs. We choose what we're going to believe based on our values, beliefs, and past experience. And also, the programs we create are from values, beliefs, and past experience, right? Yes. And it layer, 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 layer. Now, all of this we have so much information coming at us. There's so much messaging, right?
Mhm.
And then your childhood from birth to 7, birth to 8, some people say 7, some people say 8. In that time frame, those first 8 years of life are very critical.
Mhm.
95% of your strategies are locked in by age 8. And so if you learn to be quiet, to not create waves in the house, if you learn that it's safer to be invisible, is you learn love we everything is a strategy. Everything we do is a strategy. How we love is a strategy. How we relate, how we communicate, everything is a strategy. And the strategies are created on what protected you or what you were praised for as a child, right? And so some of these strategies in adulthood are not helpful. They will actually hurt you. Like people pleasing, for example. This is one that many, 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 many of us, yes, yes, me, unworthiness, people pleasing,
Mm.
all of that. Those were things that I worked through to release. When I say release, I mean like get it out of my body, let go of it mentally, let go of it consciously, let go of it emotionally, let go of it energetically. That's what I mean by release. And so the people pleasing, we'll stick with that example. I was a people pleaser because I had learned when I was younger that it was safer for me to just bend to what everybody else needed so
Mhm.
to keep the peace. And in adulthood,
There's
that
another word I resonate with.
yeah. And in adulthood, then people pleasing, how does that help you as an adult? It doesn't. Then you turn into a doormat. People take advantage of you, right? And then you feel resentment because this person took advantage of you. And I would be like, why does everyone treat me so poorly? This is what I was saying. These were the words coming through my head. Like, why does everyone take advantage of me? Why? And then I realized through some time asking asking these questions because we ask the questions that we know from where we're at. Those were the questions that I was asking at that time. And as I kept asking these questions, I would get a little bit of a different answer every time. And through the years, I realized, like, oh, this is my fault. It's not their fault. This is
Mhm.
for me. This is for me to take care of. This is my thing. It's not their thing. It's my fault. I'm the people pleaser. I'm allowing them to treat me like this. I'm actually teaching them that they can take advantage of me. I'm letting them take advantage of me. This is on me. It's not on them. And so then the work starts there, right? With awareness. Now I'm aware of it. So what do I do next? Now I have to act on it, right? So what do? I say no to somebody that I usually say yes to, right? And then I feel very strange in my body. This person looks at me like, "What do you mean, no? You always say yes." And then I have all this stuff, this angst and everything going through my body, and I feel guilt and shame for a minute, like, "Oh, maybe I should say yes, but I don't have time." And usually I would say yes, but then I have resentment, And so you gotta stick with it. When you make the choice, you're gonna work through this, you gotta stick with it. So then I would stick with it. I stuck with it. I felt what I felt, and I let other people feel what they were feeling until I moved through this. And then at some point, it just became second nature for me to say, if someone asked me to help them or to do something, if I really didn't have the time, and I would say, no, I don't have the time for that right now. I'm happy to help you next week or in a couple weeks. but today I can't fit it in. And then what happens is when you have this confidence and have some empowerment around that, when you're saying yes when you really want to say no, that's an energy leak. So when you plug up these holes, you have more trust, you have more courage, you just stand a little taller. People can feel that in you. Then you're teaching them through your energy, not through your words specifically, maybe
Mhm.
words and energy, how to treat you, right? And so, but you have to take responsibility for it first.
That that okay, so I had something I wanted to that was a beautiful description, and I wanted to share something with you about it because when you talk about the energy of saying no, you really don't have to say anything
Nope.
to say no because I was my, first husband and I were stationed or he was stationed up in New York, and I was working he was in the military, and I was working for a training thing up there. I don't need to get into detail or whatever, but I was working in there as an administrative assistant because that's what I did so well. And what I also did so well is people please. And I remember that I was working with this sergeant one day, and he was watching me, and I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off because I was like, yeah, I'll take care of that. I'll take care of that. I'll take care of that. And oh, by the way, I have all these other things to do while I'm taking care of all that. Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, right. And he's like, no, stop it. Come here. I want to show you something. So he took out of the printer a piece of paper and he wrote in capital letters the word no on the piece of paper. I want to say I was in my early when I figured this out, or at least started to figure it out. But he wrote this word no on there, and then he got a piece of tape and he right on my right here, right? And he
That's
said, "Now
awesome.
just don't say a word. Just
Yep.
walk around, and whenever somebody asks you to do something else, you don't have to say anything. You just say,
That's great.
isn't it? It was
Yeah.
wonderful, and it really taught me what that meant, but it was so hard because when I get these, like, experiences when people give me something like that, I'm willing to try anything, right?
Uh-huh.
So,
Uh-huh.
that was very powerful and led to where I'm at now, and that whole thing, like you were talking about keeping the peace, my dad was always like, "Well, you have to keep the peace," and so I felt
Uh-huh.
obligated
Uh-huh.
to be a people pleaser and
Uh-huh.
not say no. So, from that point I was able to walk in a totally different direction. And the second thing I wanted to ask you about, I'd like to talk about this because
Uh-huh.
you brought up how you recognize that the people pleasing was your fault. But then later on, when you were talking, you were also saying, but then you have to take responsibility.
Uh-huh.
So can we have a little talk, a little back and forth and see what this so people can understand? Like I was taught that I mean the word fault is kind of like it pushes us down. It has like a
Uh-huh.
lower vibrational meaning, right? And cuz I said the same exact thing. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's my fault. I don't even want to do anything with it." Every time I said it was my fault, it was like more like this than to do
Uh-huh.
anything with it.
Uh-huh.
And then when you brought up the word responsibility, it reminded me of the next generation of fault, which was, well, all this stuff happened to me when I was a child that really wasn't my fault because I didn't understand it when I was a child, right?
Uh-huh.
And then when I got older, it became my responsibility to look at it and let it go, release, recognize all those different things. So
That's right.
yeah, so I wanted you to kind of give your thoughts on what the differences are between the word fault and how you because I feel it harder in my body. It feels worse in my body when I say that word than it does when I say the word responsibility. So if you could just give some, thoughts on those
Yeah.
words, that would be great.
Yeah. Yeah. So, first and foremost, we need to use words that resonate with us. And
Mhm. Mhm.
each each one of us is so unique. We talk about no thumbprint is the same. No human is the same.
Right.
We have billions of cells in our body. We're not the same at all. And so, for all of this, for your listeners, for everything in your life, everything is going to be different or
Mhm.
unique to you. And this is where I like to start from when I work with people because we get a little, we can look at other people like they know more than us, or this worked for her, so it should work for me. We use these types of words. And so, firstly, you need to do you. And however that looks for you, whatever that sounds like for you. Um, and so, if fault doesn't resonate, then don't use
Mhm,
it. Because, and for your listeners, if any word feels negative or it feels contracting in your body, then don't
mhm.
use it because your unconscious is always listening. And so that's what I would say first and foremost for that. So if responsibility, if that sounds expanding or like, oh, hey, that sounds good. I'll take responsibility for this. It's not my fault. I'm going to take responsibility from here.
And yes, I absolutely hear that, and what's interesting to me is, like, I remember back when I was saying the word fault. It also, like, when you're first starting out, you allow that word or whatever word resonates with you to move you through, to move you
Mhm.
forward. So I
Mhm.
did use the word fault, and it was just interesting because now I'm seeing, oh, well, there's a different word that resonates with me differently. So yeah,
Mhm.
that makes a lot of sense what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that'll help the audience because that way, and also too, words are ours. They're not everybody's.
Words have frequency too.
Yeah,
And they're
yeah.
powerful. They're like, the words are spells.
Yeah,
And yes,
exactly.
and then when it comes out of your own voice, your each of us has our voice is a frequency too. And
Right.
so when it comes through
Everything's a
our
frequency.
voice,
Yeah,
yeah, then it's
yeah,
even more powerful, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
so, yeah, we really have to, like, put context around it too,
exactly.
Like,
Yeah,
when I
yeah.
say yeah, when I say my fault, like, it's that's on me. It's on me. It's my
Mhm.
fault for allowing them to treat me like that. The responsibility piece is I take responsibility for the strategy that I created based on the
Yes. Yeah.
house, the dynamics that I grew up in. Now, to that point, yes, we have these family dynamics that we grew up in, and they may have taken responsibility to shift some of the patterns from their parents.
Mhm.
Now it's our responsibility, or it's not our, we can we can choose to or not. We can choose to take responsibility to break the patterns in
Right.
this generation. So it lessens the patterns for the next generation.
I've got it. So you just gave me something else. Pay attention to this, those of you in the audience, because this is a process that just happened because I do the same thing. So when you cut the word and said choose to, you were breaking a pattern right there.
Mhm.
And people have, recognized that in me before, where I say something and then I'm like, "Oh, no." And then I say the next word that sounds more like what I could be saying, or
Yeah.
see, I'm having a hard time with that too, because that's also a pattern recognition break I'm having here too. Because like you're saying, there's a difference between should
Mhm.
and get to do. I mean,
Exactly.
that's right. So it's just I'm watching it live. I'm watching a mirror of myself live right now because that's really powerful what Tina is saying and doing, and it helps us to understand what that sounds like in our own heads and in our own bodies.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
and that's just how this works, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you were talking about the energetic piece also, and all this moves through energy. Everything is energy. I forget who says
Everything.
that. Everything is energy. So within that transformation and the journey that we go through, how can the emotional alignment that we are working on and the energetic awareness that we are recognizing create a lasting transformation rather than a short-term motivation?
Good question. Um, I always start with your emotions are speaking to you. Your body is always speaking to you. And so if you can shift from reaction to being more proactive, that will help with long-term transformation because this is never done. It's ongoing. Life is never going to be perfect. There's not one of us who is perfect on earth, right? And
Mhm.
so if we can get better and better at things through repetition, and so if we shift from um seeing the emotion as something that maybe stops us or catapults us, like bliss will, like catapult you, and
Yeah.
then maybe sadness might stop you, right? If we can shift from seeing it as I'm sad, so I'm just going to lay in my bed all day, as an example, to I'm sad. What is the sadness telling me? Where am I feeling this in my body? And what do I need to know from this? Why am I sad? Why is this here? What can I learn from this? And then listen to what's
Mhm.
coming through. You'll know. Your everything is in your unconscious, like for real. It's backed by science that everything is in your unconscious. When you ask a question, your unconscious will answer you, usually within a millisecond or two. 0.22 seconds, they say. I don't know how they measure this stuff, but if it doesn't come through in a couple seconds, don't get frustrated. What I usually do is if I ask a question and it's not coming through, I just go on with my day, or I might go for a walk, or I might go for a bike ride, or I might go hiking or take a drive or something like that. Depends what I've got going on in my day. And then when you loosen the grip on it, the answer comes. And then
Mhm.
you're like, oh, that's why that sadness is here. Oh, because this person said something and it reminded me of something from like 20 years ago that someone said, and it triggered something in me from 2 decades ago, 3 decades ago or whatever, and that's why I feel sad. And then you can just say, "Okay, that is not part of my life anymore. We're okay. I got you." Just tell yourself you got yourself. And then when you start to shift into curiosity, that will help you in the long term more than anything else,
Hmm.
and in all ways.
Yeah.
And just asking questions, just stop and asking questions, and then that will bring down the reaction, right?
Mm.
So, let's say you're feeling sad, and then let's say your child runs in the room yelling and screaming or whatever, "Mom, mom," whatever, and maybe your reaction is to be like, I can't handle this right now," or, however you might react to that. If you just stop and take a breath, you react differently to everything in your environment, to yourself and to things in your environment.
Mhm.
And then it just through repetition, we
Mhm.
just need to
Yeah.
do the reps. That's it. Just need to do the reps. And then the curiosity, the questioning becomes the habit. And then the reactions lessen and lessen. You release more, you remember more.
That's, that's an interesting way of putting it. Feel like, curiosity is so powerful in this journey. And because that's what I do. I mean, that's the way I've been working through my own stuff. But what was interesting was at one point in that process, I kept asking the word why, right? Why is this happen? Why is
Why is this
and some
happening to me? We always say that,
right,
right?
right. We always go there. And someone's like, why are you asking why? And I'm like, I have no idea why I'm asking why. It's not, they were telling me it wasn't serving me, but which was really strange because not the why is this happening to me part, but why is this happening? What's going on? How is this, moving me? And I understand, I get that now, but back then it was like it confused me. So
Yeah.
when you ask the questions again, like with the words, here's the words again, right? It's like
Mhm.
whatever works for you in the moment, use that until it doesn't work anymore,
Yes,
right?
that's the other thing. We have to constantly shift.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
constant, constant, constant.
Constant, like, if sound bath, if going to a sound bath once a week is working for you right now, and then let's say 2 months from now, you're like, "Have to go to sound bath again," then that's a sign that sound bath you don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
You don't need it anymore.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, and just like in with word as you're asking yourself these questions and moving yourself through this stuff, you're gonna shift and things are gonna change. Change is inevitable. Right. It's the only constant, right? And so and this is the game. Surrender, surrender, surrender. That's the game. You're constantly
Mhm,
surrendering and
mhm,
not surrendering like giving up or giving
mhm,
in. Surrender as letting go.
mhm.
It's a constant letting go. It really is. If I were to
Yeah.
describe this whole transformational journey in 2 words, it would be letting go.
Mhm, mhm. And that's been a big, big process for me over the last year is getting into the letting go and the surrendering is, like, moment by moment. Like, you are working through in that moment.
Yeah.
Something's something just crashed in on you, and you're like, "Okay." Like, I'm a control freak, or I have been in my whole life, right? And I still do it with IT, but I've been working on the surrendering piece, and when something came up for me, it was like, "Oh," you can feel it. You'll feel it in your body, and
Mhm.
then you'll try to control it, or I tried to control it, and then I was like, "I can't do anything." And then letting go, like, I have to get it fixed now. I have to fix it right now. No, no, no,
Mm.
you don't, because if you try to fix it right now, it's going to get worse.
Yep. Yeah.
So the surrender piece actually helps you step back from that and
Yeah.
look in from a different perspective and give yourself time and your nervous system time to
Mhm.
settle into, and then it actually puts your frontal lobe back online, which is what I
Mhm.
call it,
Mhm.
because when you go into stress response, yeah, trust me,
Everything's out of whack.
everything's out of
Chemicals,
whack.
nervous system,
I
everything's
can't
going
think
bonkers.
straight. Yeah, it's all of it, all of it. So, yeah, that's it's a challenging thing, but it's doable, I mean,
It
for some
is.
it is, and for a lot of us, we've been doing, like, for me, I've been doing this for over 35 years, so I would think, something would have shifted years ago, but it didn't. It kept going because apparently there was more to work, but that's the whole piece, it's just being
Yeah.
able to settle into things that I
Yes.
discovered out of that.
Yeah.
So, Tina, I wanted to talk to you about a couple of things that I saw in the work that you do that I found that was very powerful in relation to this. And it kind of
Mm.
relates to the title of the podcast anyway, with the awakening. You
Mhm.
had something in your that I was researching that was talking about awakening in the aftermath. And I read a sentence that said, "Why our darkest chapters often carry the assignment for our soul."
Mm.
I Because of the work that I'm doing on myself right now, that kind of linked me into that whole, there's another thing you talk about called spiritual remembrance, right? That's what that feels like to me. So can you go a little bit deeper into that? Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. So I feel like in my experience, I should start with in my experience, and I
Right.
feel like our greatest gifts, the our superpowers are the things that we were led away from as children. And so, for example, uh, we didn't talk a lot about human design here, but I do
You can
human
bring it up if
design
you
and
want to. Yes.
yeah,
You can
so
bring it up.
because I had such an aha moment with my human design when I ran my chart. I'm a manifester and I have a profile, 3-5 profile. And so just with surface level human design right there, just learning that I'm a manifester, I'm an initiator. I don't follow people. And I don't like to follow people, walk with people, I'll ride with people. Like, come on, let's go. I love being around people, but I never really resonated with people telling me what to do or what to think. And
That's
and then because of that, there was always like, "Why can't you just listen to me? Why can't you just do what I say?" And these things, and then I would think that's something, "Why can't I? Why I don't want to, so why
right.
why
Right.
can't?" So I thought something was wrong with me, right? Until I actually learned, that's why, 'cause you're not supposed to follow what people say, and, yeah, you're not supposed to just follow along. You're here to ask questions. Then the other
You said a generator or a manifesting generator?
I'm a
Wait,
manifester.
you're an actual wow.
Lineage trauma around manifestors. Lineage, yeah,
That explains a lot about my son, but okay.
generations.
He's a man,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and then
yeah.
I'm a 3-5 profile. So the 3 line
Mhm,
is all about experimenting.
mhm.
It's, the martyr. The actual human design name is the martyr. I don't know if I resonate so much with that, but I'll say experimental, experiential, trial and error. So
Mm.
I will jump into anything. I'll try anything. And I don't see anything as a failure. I just like, oh, well, that didn't work. Let's just try this. Right. Like, let's say I'm going driving somewhere and I take a wrong exit. I'll be like, I was supposed to take that one. So I just hop back on and take the next one. Where a passenger might be like, we took the wrong exit. Oh, no.
Yeah, yeah,
It might be a thing where with me, it's not a thing. It
yeah.
just
That's
okay,
so
it didn't
cool.
work, and throughout my life, people would tell me, "Why don't" "You need to do it this way. You need to do this. You need to do that. You don't color outside the lines, all these things, blah, blah, blah." That's
No,
not
I
how
don't. Yeah.
I'm built. But I was the good girl and the people pleaser, and I followed the rules, and I suppress, 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 suppress. The other thing is the 5 line is a role model line. It's also here
I thought that
to
was 6. Isn't that the
no,
6th line? Because mine's a
the
6
6 line is a role model, but in a different way. So the 5 line
oh,
yeah, so the 5 line is it's kind of a role model, a leadership line,
that
but
makes
people
sense.
see you as a savior
Mm.
and they see so it's a projected line, and so people project th things onto you, whether it's positive or negative. And so someone may project onto me like, "Oh, you're a good speaker." That means it's in them too. And some people
Yeah,
might project nasty, not so nice things on me, and it's in them too.
yeah.
Right?
Yep,
And
yep.
so because I was the people pleaser, the chameleon, low self-worth, all these things in my earlier years with we'll just stick with these 3. There's a lot more in my design, but we'll stick with these 3 examples. Just with these 3 examples, I suppressed and suppressed and suppressed and tried so hard to like, why can't people just like me? Why are people mean to me? I try to be so nice and then I would try to be nicer. And
Mhm.
nice, as we know, is different than kind, right?
Yes, yes,
And
yes, yes.
so a suppress, 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 suppress. As I unfolded and unlayered and remembered and learned more about myself, all of that is my magic. Now it's my superpower and how I work with my clients and how I share it's my superpower and what I bring to the world.
Mm.
When someone's sitting across from me, one of my a coaching clients sitting across from me, I'm reflecting that's my superpower. She can
Mhm.
see in her through me what she can't see in herself yet.
Right.
So then she can borrow my belief until she has it.
Mm.
It's actually my superpower. And so I went from trying to be invisible to allowing myself to be seen and heard. And so that's where that it was such it and I say darkness because it did kind of felt like a darkness to some extent, right? Because it felt kind of alone and lonely in there, like, wait a second, but I know all this stuff about me. And what you're saying doesn't make any sense, but I'm going to try to follow the rules, even though it doesn't make sense and it doesn't feel good
Mhm.
in my body. I'm going to try to make this work because you're all telling me that's the way until I learned to trust myself and
That's
lock it in and listen to my own empowerment and lead with that.
mhm, and that was part of your awakening.
Yeah.
Is that the thing that kinda led you into that by studying human design, or
No, no.
no? Because that's what happened with mine, so
Uh, no, it's no, I don't know if I've had like an actual my whole life has just been kind of one
yeah,
unfolding. Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so the thing that led me into this work is just is my life, everything that I've lived
yeah,
and what I feel like now. I never even knew this was possible. What I feel inside in my body right now and how connected and expansive. I heard, like 10, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, whenever self-development kind of like started to take center stage online, was it 10,
Mm.
15 years ago? And I started hearing
Yeah.
people talk about expansive and these words, like, I
It's like,
can't even
what is
remember.
that?
Yeah, I'm just like, "What are you talking about? How do you get
Right.
there?" I thought,
Right.
"I feel expanse," you know? I
Yeah.
feel that. That's I don't know what you're
But
and
what
then they
is it
would say,
really?
"But what is it really?" And and I know there's more to uncover, which even excites me more. That's
Mhm.
what's really exciting. And but to go from and I said this to one of my friends, we were having a really deep conversation just recently, and I was like, "Man, I wish you could feel what it felt like in my body 40 years ago and what it feels like now." It is
That's powerful,
incredible.
yes.
It
Yeah.
is so powerful. I mean, I was living from in survival.
Hmm.
I lived with anxiety. I didn't even know I was living with anxiety until I finally had the opportunity over the years to work through that. I didn't
Mhm.
even know I was living in fight or flight in anxiety. I thought that was
Yeah.
just normal.
But
I thought
that's what's
all of it
so
was normal.
yeah, and that's what's so challenging for people because there's so many people that are traumatized. There's so many people that are in grief, and because of that very thing, they don't know it. They
Right.
just keep trying to live their lives as if
Manage.
the way they're doing it is working for them, for us. I
Yeah.
mean, I've done it,
Yep.
so
We've all done
it's
it.
like
We've all been
right?
there.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like most people, unless they have an awareness of it, just it's just like
It
this
keeps
gerbil wheel.
on.
They just keep on keeping on. Go
Yeah.
back to the '70s. Keep on keeping on.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that's how
That's
I w yeah,
that's why I love platforms like this, and when we can tell our stories and we can have conversations and we can talk about
yeah,
what it really felt like, like for
yeah,
real. What
yeah.
did it feel like? What does it feel like?
It
So
just
people
feels
can
so
kind of tap
calm.
into that. Yeah, it feels
Yeah,
like
but that's the
serenity, right?
thing. It feels like what?
Serenity.
Serenity. It feels for me, I don't know if serenity is not my word. Peace is my word.
Projector.
And in okay, so
Manifest.
there we can lead into that, right? Yeah. But it's so crazy because I always felt my whole body because I'm also an empath and a highly sensitive person on top of everything else, right?
Yeah.
So, my body always felt contracted,
Yeah.
always. And then when something else hit it, it got more contracted, more contracted.
Yeah.
And now, like you're talking about expansiveness, I'm like, you know, I just feel like everything has opened up in my body. All that stuff happening out there is happening like it has always, even though it's in a different way right now. But I always felt like hiding and isolating and doing
Yeah.
protecting and all
Same.
that kind of stuff. Yeah. And
Yeah.
now it's like it's not doing that. And the crazy thing is it's not about um what's it's not an analytical
Mm-mm.
feature in healing. It's like all felt. And
Yeah.
when you one day you just wake up and you're like, "Well, that feels different. That's
Mhm.
weird." Right?
Mhm.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
yeah, yeah,
That's why I go back to the spirals and the
yeah.
multidimensionality and it's nonlinear, right?
Mhm.
It's non you can't analyze it, you can't think your way through it, you can't talk your way
Can't
through
do
it.
it.
You
Can't do
just
it.
you gotta live through it. You have to
Yeah.
take action and make choices and micro choices
Mhm.
each every minute of every day to
That's
take
right.
yourself
That's
through it,
right.
and you have to meet yourself. You have to meet yourself where you're at, feel all the feelings. Like, I didn't even know there were some of these feelings until I felt some of the feelings,
My
like
I
the
feel
full
you.
spectrum.
Right, right, and that's also I was gonna say for a generator, so we gotta go back into human design for a generator, they have to feel their feelings in order to make decisions, right? Isn't that how it works for them? Or they have to wait for the emotion no, they have to wait for the emotion to ride before jumping into anything.
Well, that's not specifically for a generator, that's for emotional I'm emotional, so I have
Oh,
to wait. Yeah. So
You have
that's
to
if
wait for the wave to go.
I
Okay,
have to
okay.
wait
So
for the
that
wave.
shows how much
Yeah.
I know. Okay, now let's talk about me. Can we talk about me now? Yeah. So you brought up the projector thing
Yeah.
about where I'm kind of sounds like a projector. Yeah, I always sound like a yeah. So what I'd love for you to do is just real short 5-10 minutes, something like that. When I tell you what I am, even though I've done my research on it, maybe you can link up with, we've been on this call for a little while now, right? And so you've kind of gotten an idea, even though I kind of show up a little differently on here than I normally do. But maybe that's part of being a projector, I guess. But when I tell you what my full thing is, like well, not full, but that the three pieces, can you do a little bit of a just so people
A
can see what a
riff?
projector yeah, just that.
Sure.
So I am a self-projected projector, 4-6.
Ah,
And
4-6.
I can
Okay, that makes
yeah.
sense.
Woo!
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah,
So,
so there it is.
yeah, the 4 line is a networker and a
Uh-huh.
connector networker. So, you're really, um, love to be around people and but you're good at connecting people too, like, I know a person, you gotta meet this person because you need to collaborate, that kinda thing. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. Yeah, and then the 6th line that you mentioned before is a role model, but it's in 3 phases. And so
Mhm.
from birth to 30, you're kind of in the experiential phase, and then 30 to 50, we use the words on the roof in human design. You're on the roof.
Yeah.
Basically, it means you just kinda step back a little bit and
Yep.
you see things from a you take a different perspective on all the things that you've experienced thus far in life.
Mhm.
Then you're embodying that and you turn that wisdom into the teachings, and then you really come into your own in your 50s and 60s. You
And
really
that's when
come
you
into
come
your own.
off the roof,
You come off the room, you share
right?
your wisdom, and that's where you start
Yeah.
to come into your
Yeah.
gifts. The projector too is you having this podcast is the perfect projector thing. A lot of projectors ask me like because here's the thing with projectors. So projector each type now we're talking about types just for your listeners. I'm just gonna rattle these
That's
off
okay.
quickly because yeah.
They
So
won't understand this
4
anyway if we don't, so
there's 4 types and 1 subtype. So there's a manifester, generator, manigen, which is a subtype, projector, reflector. Manifester, energy, blueprint, as we've kind of hit on a little bit, talking about me as a manifester, is the manifester energy blueprint is we get a creative surge and we're like all in on the thing and we can work, 18 hours a day on something and as long as it takes for us to feel like we're like the project is in a good space and we can hand it off or we get bored and we're done and then we rest and then we get another idea and then we start another project. So it's a very like up and down. We get the surge and then we need to rest. And
I
those
try
time
to
frames
do
can
that,
be
it doesn't work.
completely different. Yeah, that won't
Yeah.
work for you.
It won't work.
And the generator, their energetic blueprint, they get up in the morning, they can work all day. They're very like rhythmic and they can work all day. They'll go to sleep, get up in the morning, work all day. The manifesting generator, has the generator and the manifestor energy. So they not only can go all day, but then they also have these creative surges. And so they're really good at multitasking and they're really good at cutting corners and finding
Mm,
the loopholes and everything. And I have some manifestor friends. My cousin's a manifesting generator and it's hilarious watching them try to cut corners on everything.
mhm.
It's really funny. And then the projector energy blueprint is you're like really good at seeing systems and how things run. You can see immediately like probably everywhere you are, even like at a restaurant, like she would be better as a hostess and instead of a waitress and they could totally get rid of 5 employees if they just did this and so
Right, right.
so projectors are more open like you have more open centers than the other types which means that you're picking up on other people's energies which means that you need alone time to regroup refresh and also you need rest and so you work very efficiently because you need this rest. And so sometimes projectors are like, oh no, I need rest. I'm not going to get enough. I'm not going to get as much done as I should. But you work so efficiently
Mm.
because you need the rest. And so the other thing with projectors have very like nurturing, enveloping energy, but it's also very piercing because you can see into things so quickly. The energy is very piercing. So it can come through. Like if you say something, if you see something in me and you just come at me with it, I'm going to be like, whoa,
Well,
it might feel a little
I think I
shocking.
I think I have done that already with you, so go ahead.
And I can take yeah, but, like, it might feel like, "Oh, that it" but
Yeah,
if for people who don't really understand this, they don't know what to do with that, right? And so
mm,
it might be a little jarring for them. So for the projectors, they always ask me like, "Well, how can I do my marketing then if I'm supposed to wait for invitation and this?" I'm always like, Speak your wisdom. Just talk speak
just talk to
tell
yourself.
just
Talk to
just talk, do a
Yeah,
podcast, do
yeah,
videos
yeah.
online so people can hear you. They can
Uh-huh.
hear what you know. You talk about what you know. You're sharing your wisdom. People can hear what you're talking about and then they invite you in like, "Hey, you know a lot about this. Do you want to collaborate on this?" Or, "Hey, do you want to come and speak at my thing?" And then you're
Yeah.
getting the invitation.
Well, I wanna throw a curveball at you because and this has nothing to do with the ones that you were talking about. I am an observer, not
Mhm.
observed. So there's a
Mhm.
difference where people like, there's a limit, like, it feels like I'm doing all the work all the time because nobody sees me because I'm not observed, that I'm always being the one watching everything and taking it in and doing all that kind of stuff. So it's a very interesting and challenging, uh, place to be a
Yes,
projector. Yeah,
I would
and then
imagine. And
100%.
people will see you in your wisdom. And
Mhm.
that's yeah, and so that's like, so telling stories is helpful because then the wisdom is coming out without a
Yeah.
like, "Hey, you should do this," or, "Hey, did you"
Y Yeah,
it isn't
I've
so
had to learn
jarring.
that, and I've learned it
Yeah.
to do it on the podcast because it makes it for somebody rather than, like, you gotta do because it is, you're right. It's like I see something in someone, and I know
And you're
immediately
yeah, and
what
you're
they
probably,
need to
like,
know.
so excited, like, "Ah,
I
I
know, and
just
it's
need to
like
tell you this."
right? But now I've learned and some people say yes anyway, and don't know why, but now I've learned to say, "Hey, there's something I got a download. Would you like to hear it?"
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
whatever that is. But then at the same time, like the piece of the self-projected piece of the part of it, that's the thing that really helps me the most is and for me, it's like talking to myself.
yeah.
Well,
You have
that
to
and
hear
taking
your own
naps.
voice.
You're
Yeah.
right.
Yes,
Hearing my
yes.
own voice and taking naps. And then
Yeah.
I was told I had to lay down while I work. That was one of my favorites. I'm like, I
Uh,
can't do that. I'd
yeah.
love to, but I can't do that. That's crazy.
No.
It
Yeah,
doesn't work for me. But so there's so many nuances because you also
there is.
do gene keys and you do all these different things that's related. And it can take years to learn everything that's in
Oh,
human
yeah.
design,
Oh
right?
gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
it's so much information and it's still to this day, it just blows my mind
right.
that someone could channel a system like that and then
Yeah.
organize it in a way to teach it to other people and
Yeah.
organize it so we can understand what it actually means. That's
Yeah.
crazy
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's
So
so big.
right. I know. And it incorporates so many different things. It's just
Mm,
a lot of wheels, a lot of turning wheels.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so thank you for sharing all that stuff. We could be here like for a week talking about it or
yeah.
longer. If you could offer one piece of advice to someone just starting their healing journey, what would it be?
Trust yourself and let your voice be louder than anyone else's.
Yes, I love that. That's beautiful. Okay, how do you define awakening?
Oh boy, I've never even thought of defining that before. Chaos and
Yes.
beauty all in
Yeah.
one?
Yeah. That's it. That works.
I'm not sure how to articulate that. I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to ponder on that a little bit. Yeah, I would say, it doesn't need to be chaos, I guess, awakening. I would say
Well, it begins as
awakening is
chaos.
awareness.
Yes. Yeah.
Awareness. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Just like tapping into something that you it it's a I would say it's like a mindset shift. Well, I would
Mhm.
say it's a you're changing definitions, you're changing everything you thought you knew about life,
Yes,
and
all of
it's like a
everything you said, yes.
yeah,
Yeah, because that's the thing, it's like, as humans, that's what we're doing every day when we're on our healing journey or in life's journey or whatever, we're always awakening, we're always having aha moments, we're always having things
always.
come up that change us, and to
Yeah.
me, that's awakening,
Yep.
so
Yeah.
and chaos is part of that.
Yep.
Alright, so what do you believe soul divinity is?
Soul divinity. Ooh, it's interesting that you asked that because I've been tying into soul identity lately. Is this energy that I'm feeling right now, soul divinity. I how do I put this into words? I can feel what I wanna say.
Just
Um,
start talking and let it roll, let her rip.
yeah, soul divinity. I would say that is energetically, I would say the body is the key to unlocking that soul divinity.
Mm,
Like, the more you take care of your body, the what you put into your body and exercising, and we talked about release. You're releasing this when you exercise and you take care of yourself. That's one way of working through some of this release work, releasing
mhm,
traumas and these things that we hold in, releasing emotions, right? That's one way, working with energetics and these things. And as you're cleaning up your body, you're expanding and you can start to see your soul identity. And I
mhm.
would say that is the path to the soul divinity.
Which that's very no one went to the body, you're the first person who's gone to the body, which is interesting to me because the body is the temple,
Yes.
and the temple houses
It's the oracle, it's the temple.
it's the soul, or not the body doesn't hold the soul, the body houses the energies
Yeah.
of the soul divinity.
And
When
it's
you
what
say it
and it
that way, yeah.
yeah, and it's where we hold the trauma and trapped emotions and all of that stuff. So the more we take care of our body, the more we release all that stuff, the more open we are to what our soul is here, what our where we're open to the soul guidance.
Mhm, and that's embodiment, that's just
Yeah,
embodiment.
it's
Yeah,
embodiment. Yeah.
yeah. See? We knew he'd lead us to somewhere. That was good, thank you.
Got it.
Okay. How can people get in touch with you?
Can answer this one. The
That's what I got
severance
that one. Yeah.
My website, thesovereignsoul.co, you can find everything there. And then I'm on Instagram at I am Tina LeAnn, TINALEANN. And I just started a TikTok channel too, where I give little 90-second videos every day about shifting identity and all the things that we've talked about. And that's
Yeah.
I am Tina LeAnn on TikTok as well. And all of
Nice.
those links, everything is on my website. And
And
you can
and
run a free, human design chart on my website too, if that's
that's true,
interesting to
yeah.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and all this information will also be in the description, so what it'll all lead back home. Um,
I
that
like that.
just came out of nowhere. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience before we wrap up?
Oh, I don't know, we hit on so much. I would say just keep that surrender piece top of mind. Surrender, surrender, let go, loosen expectations, and trust yourself. Listen to your own voice. And you got
Yeah.
this.
You got this. That's right,
You
I love
got
that.
this.
I love that,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Tina, and thank you for bringing your honesty, clarity, and lived wisdom to us today. Your journey shows that healing isn't something we stumble into, it's something we choose. One courageous truth at a time. The way you guide others through transformation reminds us that we're not defined by our past, but by the moment we decide to reclaim ourselves. And to my audience, may this conversation inspire you to listen to your body, trust your intuition, and honor your own becoming. Thank you for being here with us on Awakening Soul Divinity. Thank you for being here. Click on one of the videos below. to keep going on your healing journey. And don't forget to subscribe.